Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jacquelyn Lopez. Today I'm going to be doing 4 pumpkin DIYs for you. I really do hope you enjoy them. At the end of every DIY, I did insert a picture of a vignette that I styled using my DIY, and I can't wait for you to see them. I do hope you enjoy as well. Now for our first DIY, you are going to need a Dollar Tree foam pumpkin, Mod Podge, sturdy scissors, fabric of your choice. I chose this rose print and it is cut to 1/4 of a yard. Acrylic paint, and I chose this rose gold by Folk Art. Optional cotton twine. You will need a foam brush and a regular acrylic paintbrush. I am using this paint tray from Dollar Tree. Now we're going to start by removing the tag and the stem off of our pumpkin. And now our fabric, we are going to need to cut into strips. That is just the method that I preferred. And you're just going to cut it at the length that it already is because of the size that I got. I am going to be needing 10 strips, and we're going to use our Mod Podge and our foam roller to attach it to the pumpkin from the top to the bottom. And I am going to show you kind of what I did. I did have to end up changing it, but I wanted to show you so that you can learn from my mistakes and not do it the way that I started. I started by adding the strips, and then directly across from it I am going to be adding the second strip, and I'll show you a little bit later on what is the best method to use for this. You are going to be applying your fabric strips and then applying a second layer on top of Mod Podge. And here's where you see where I laid them across, and I see where it's just not working out because I would end up needing more strips of fabric, and they would just be piled on top of the other rather than just covering the pumpkin gracefully. I do end up having to attach them one next to the other by gently or slightly overlapping it. I'll show you here in a close-up. You are going to attach your strip to where you are covering the edge just barely, making sure that it is attached at the top and bottom, and then you are going to fold over the top, creating kind of a pleat. And then you're going to do the same again with the top or bottom, and this will form into the shape of the pumpkin better than if you are just putting it on top of the other. I always make sure to put extra Mod Podge at the edges, and this is what it looks like with all of the 10 strips slightly overlapping the edges with all the pleats. As you can see, it takes the shape of the pumpkin much better. I am adding just the final layer of Mod Podge to make sure that all the edges are down, especially tops and bottoms. And now I am choosing to paint my stem in the rose gold. What you do will be depending on your personal preference. And here is my finished pumpkin stem and my dry pumpkin. It did have to dry overnight, and as you can see, it took the shape of the pumpkin very well. Now to attach the stem to it, remove the toothpick because it will not go through the layers of fabric and Mod Podge. Now you are going to just need to apply a small dollop of hot glue and just put it back on the top of the pumpkin. And I am going to give you different options. You can use the cotton twine or you can use jute. For this, you may want to keep it on the toothpick so that it has more stability for you to, again, wrap it with either the cotton twine or jute. You can cover your stem with burlap fabric or remnants of a ribbon and attach that. You can use either contrasting or coordinating yarn to cover up the stem, and again attach it to the top of the pumpkin with the hot glue, removing the toothpick. Another thing you can do is you can make your own pumpkin stem if you prefer it to be larger. This one is done out of craft paper. I will show you later on how to do it. You can also create felt pumpkin stems. This is my preferred way to display my pumpkin, with the shorter rose gold stem. And here is how I styled it in a vignette in my home. I hope you enjoyed that first pumpkin DIY. For our second pumpkin, we are going to be using these bandanas as fabric. They are from Walmart and I love the prints, and they're only $1. You are going to need some thread, some needles, well, a needle, some batting or filler, craft paper for the stem. And now we're going to start by removing the tag off of them and laying out our fabric. And we are going to make this square fabric into a circle. We're going to start by removing the contrasting edge, and all you're going to do is cut off the edges so that they become round. You're going to do that to all 4 corners. Now that we have this round shape, this is going to be our fabric pumpkin. You can be a perfectionist and make it look more like a circle, but it really won't matter because you are going to be sewing around the edge, so it won't matter if it's not a perfect circle. Thread your thread through the needle, and I do recommend to use an upholstery needle and a thicker thread for this. You can do it 2 or 3 times to the needle, but I do recommend something thicker because I had one of my pumpkins come out. And all you're going to do is do a running stitch around the pumpkin, and a running stitch is just a stitch that you put in and out, in and out, in and out, and it just runs along the entire edge. And now you are going to want this type of stitching because you will be able to gently pull on the thread and gather the edges, which will make it gather around almost as if it was a small little bag. And this is the desired effect that you want, because you are going to want to stuff your pumpkin. When stuffing your pumpkin, shape it in the way that you want it by moving the stuffing around. And I did do a lot of stuffing, gathering the thread and the fabric so that I could see what would work best for me. And this is the desired look that I wanted, where it wasn't too dense, more of a kind of loose, soft pumpkin. I am going to set this aside so that we can carry on to making a stem for a pumpkin. Again, you can do different types of stems. You can do some cinnamon, felt stems. In this case, I am doing some craft paper stems because that is what I had in my home already available. And I had this thinner craft paper, so I am folding it several times so that it becomes thicker. And all you're going to want to do is have almost of a square shape in your craft paper, and you are going to gather and roll it around until it kind of has the shape of a stem, and bend it over so that it's a little bit more realistic look. You can always paint it if you would like, but I like the natural look of the craft paper with the color of fabric that I have. And here is my finished stem, and all I'm going to do is attach it into the inside of the pumpkin. I am not attaching any glue or anything. I'm just letting the foam batting be over the edge, and then I am going to pull on the thread so that it gathers the fabric, and that'll kind of gather around my stem as well. Once you gather tight enough, make a knot, and let me stress, do not pull too tightly because you may end up ripping it open. It happened to me with my second pumpkin. So for my second pumpkin, I am using this other fabric again, cut around the edges, and this is my second pumpkin with my second craft paper stem. Now I like the look of this one on its own, but I'm going to give you a different option for our second pumpkin. I am going to take this cotton twine and give it almost the grooves or wedges that a pumpkin has, and I'm going to show you how I do that. Now I am showing you here with cotton twine, but you can use jute for these grooves. And now what you're going to want to do is cut 4 pieces of the twine, and you're going to want to knot them at the center. And this knot you're going to be putting at the very bottom. Lay out your twine one across from the other, kind of looking like a spider web right here, and lay it right on top, and you're going to grab one across from the other and tie them around the stem. You are going to want to do this much tighter than I am. I'm not keeping it this way, so mine will look kind of loose, but make sure you do this a little bit tighter so that it gives it the proper grooves. And again, cut your pieces much larger so that you are able to wrap around the stem. That'll make for a much cleaner look. As you can see here in the bottom, you can see more of the grooves rather than on top, because again, I left that more loose. And here are my 2 stuffed pumpkins. They both look kind of different. I love the way these turned out, and here is how I styled one of my stuffed pumpkins. For third DIY, we are going to use another foam pumpkin, acrylic paint of your choice, and a foam brush. I am using 2 different types of paint because I'm going to paint 2 different pumpkins. Again, another paint tray from Dollar Tree and a brush of your choice. A lot of coffee for all of these DIYs. Again, you are going to want to remove the stem, protect the area that you're working on, and start painting your pumpkin. Now I am going to recommend that you use stippling motions rather than brushing on, because as you see, it does not cover it very well, and it takes forever to dry because whatever they used prior to paint it was horrible. So I'm going to show you with a different pumpkin that I did paint purple as well. And then you are going to want to grab your second color of choice. I chose rose gold because that's what's going to match my theme that I have going for this year. And you are going to use your brush to do paint splatters. And I am going to recommend that you use a kids style paint brush because it is small enough to create just tiny speckles rather than huge globs of paint, and because of the plastic bristles, it'll make it easier for you to do these splatters. Again, I'm going to stress that you protect your area because I unfortunately did not cover it well enough. You'll see that my entire coffee table ends up being stained with tiny little speckles of rose gold, and I have not been able to take them off. Leave me any suggestions down below of how I can remove acrylic paint from my wooden coffee table. I am going to be doing 2 of these pumpkins because they are smaller. I really do love the way this turned out, and this was so quick and it looks so beautiful. I highly recommend that you do this to all of the pumpkins that you do end up painting because it just adds more texture and dimension to your pumpkins, and you can do it ever so lightly so that it's not as much as I did in these smaller pumpkins. Now here are both of my finished pumpkins and in the little vignette that I styled them in my home. For a final DIY, you are going to be needing various different florals. This is just what I had on hand. I didn't want to buy anything new or extra. A floral block or a foam circle as I'm using. Because it is a circle, I'm going to cut off a small edge of it so that I will be able to lay it flat on top of my pumpkin. Now you can cover this in floral tape. I chose not to because I could not find mine. And then you are going to use, of course, a pumpkin. Now this pumpkin I painted in the rose gold acrylic paint, and I'm also going to be using these pink roses as my main flowers on this pumpkin. Now we are going to be creating a pumpkin vase, and all we're going to do is we're going to attach it to this foam pumpkin on top, instead of putting it directly into the pumpkin or trying to cut a hole. It is just what is going to look best on top of the pumpkin. I am choosing to add these leaves at the bottom, again, because I did not cover my foam in the floral tape. That is the preferred method that I would choose. And this is just to try and conceal the white foam. Attach it to the center of your pumpkin, and then just start putting your flowers inside the foam. Play with it, see kind of what feels best. I am choosing these colors and these florals to do something a little bit different. Everybody is all excited for fall, as am I, but the weather outside is still very, very hot in Arizona. So I thought, why not do something that maybe we would have around here at the beginning of fall, which is some succulents and some pretty pink roses. We do have a lot of those still here, even during the hot weather. So I hope you enjoy this. I'm just gonna let you kind of watch and see kind of what I do, what I add and take on, because again, this is all based off of personal preference. Let me know down below if you want maybe a little bit more in-depth tutorial of how I do my flower arrangements and why I add things in specific places. In the meantime, I'm just gonna let you watch. Now I am going to recommend that several times through the process you stop and take a look around your arrangement to see where you have any gaps, and so that you can see kind of what's working and what's not, again, to add or remove. So here is the final look. I absolutely adored the way this turned out. I love the colors. I loved all the flowers, how well they worked with one another. And I really do hope you enjoyed this one. Here is also a little vignette of how I styled this in my home. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Leave me down in the comments which one do you think you will try. If you do try any of these, don't forget to tag me on your Instagram post or send me a comment in your video. I'm going to leave the link to my Instagram down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.